Hello, fellow digital forensics analysts. You are here today to learn about analyzing SD cards. To begin, you must first see what type of SD card you will be analyzing. The cards come in two major variants, standard size and micro sized. Once figuring out which you have, you will then be faced with another similar challenge, how to connect it to the computer or workstation. You have two major choices. One is connecting it directly to the computer, but you must bear in mind computers only accept standard size, but you can do this with the micro standard by simply using an adapter to make it standard size. The last option is to use an SD card to USB adapter, which usually they accept both sizes, so this would be also adequate. This is important because the two workstations accept one or the other standard, and other computers will be similar in this respect. Adapters of both variety are available, so this is not an issue for us, but it is important to note that adapters should be brought along with you if you are intending to analyze SD media from a mobile device or per se a smartphone or even a camera. So adapters should be brought with you, unlike they are provided with the workstation. So now that you understand the differences between the several variants of SD card, the standard size SD card, the micro size SD card, it is now important to also note the hardware that will be needed for this demonstration. For instance, a little background of what the hardware we're going to be using. We're going to be using a SD card to USB adapter, which, for instance, you have at the workstation. You can use the SD card slot on the XPS 420, or you can even use the SD card reader to USB on the Precision 690 like we are using in this demonstration. It's up to you. But the interesting thing to note is that you have several options for connecting SD card and micro SD card. So for instance, first, if you were doing an analysis on the job, you would look, does the computer have an SD card slot that you're going to be using? What kind of SD card do you have? Do you have micro SD? Do you have normal SD? Regardless, you just need to make sure, again, to look at what tools you have and then choose what tools you want to use. Now, once you've done that, we're going to want to move on to the process of actually analyzing the media. So for instance, let's open File Explorer, and you can see that there are two USB drives currently. And you don't actually see a SD card listed. So for instance, this is actually our SD card in that USB slot. So as you can see, I already have some files loaded onto this, and they're actually the files that we're going to be using for analyzing our SD card. So first, as you can see, I've already plugged in the SD card. It's in a USB adapter. The computer thinks it's a USB drive, which is perfectly fine. So now we're going to actually move into opening our test program that we can actually analyze the data. And this is test disk or photorec. You may be familiar with it from our RAM analysis. To do this, we're going to open up the folder. We're going to open up photorec win, give it administrator access, and now we're ready to start doing our analysis. Now, as you can see, which is a little different and why I left the other USB in, is that it actually shows us that we have two USB drives, or might I say, it shows that one is actually a USB drive because it gives us the manufacturer information, which is good to know. And then it just says mass storage device, which because the SD card isn't going to be labeled by manufacturer, it's going to be labeled as just storage media. So this is the one we are going to want to analyze because it is the SD card, unlike the actual USB, which is named by manufacturer, has storage size. So we're going to ignore that one because we're more concerned with the SD card. So now we're going to proceed. We're also going to, like our RAM analysis, if you've seen that video, we're going to choose file options. Now, if you remember from the previous lesson plan, or if this is your first lesson plan, file options in this program gives you where you can select any file option you want. So for instance, if I want to select a doc file, I'm going to scroll down and look at docs. If I want to select a JPEG, I'll scroll down and select JPEG. But I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to keep it docs of what I selected before. But again, I will iterate for those of you first watching this video that you can press S and it will select all default options, and majorly almost everything is going to be selected. And then you can select S to disable everything, allowing you to select what you want, which is honestly what you should do if you're searching for something specific, or if you don't want to just look through every single file that was ever on the device. So for instance, I'm going to select doc again because that's what I'm interested in on this SD card, but in reality you would select image files, video files, whatever you would think is on the SD card that you want to recover, or you think that's been corrupted or somebody's tried to delete. But for instance, just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to select doc. Again, you can look at options that'll just show you if you want to keep corrupted files, and again for an SD card would be important. So bear that in mind. But for instance, I'm not going to actually go into looking at corrupted files, so I'm going to leave everything no. Now I'm going to go to the search, which is going to use the file options that I had selected. I'm going to select other for the Windows file system. And also now the key difference here, and again if you watch the RAM analysis, is that we have another option, which is the free or whole. Free is going to select if you've accidentally deleted something. So for instance, if you've deleted a picture, you've deleted an image, or deleted something that you just want to find and you haven't wrote over it so many times that it's gone, you're going to select free. However, if there's corrupted files, you just want to look through the whole file system, you can select whole. It'll look through corrupted files if you have that option I showed you previously selected, and it will just look through anything on the drive. So if I've corrupted a Word document and I want to try to see if I can get something from it, I'll select whole. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to look for Word documents that I deleted. So I'm going to select free. But whole would be if you're looking for corrupted files and looking to do real data analysis on a file that you can try to reconstruct. But it's not going to be very useful to us at this point because we're looking for intact files and incriminating evidence. Now again, if you're interested in hacking or opening up that file that's corrupted and trying to make sense of it, you can, but for this demonstration we're not. But for future lesson plans or experimentation, you're more than welcome to look through whole and enable that corrupt file option that I showed you previously. And now this is going to be the directory that we're going to be saving any information from the SD card. Again, it's just going to be using since we opened PhotoRec from the SD card, it would be using that directory, which is most of the time unadvisable. But for this demonstration, since there is not going to be any doc files or very little, we can do it. But normally, you'd want to open PhotoRec on the desktop, or you'd want to open it on a faster media, because the SD card, it's going to take a lot of resources to do this. But again, I'm just going to choose the default just to give you an option that you can change the directory. But for now, I'm just going to see and select the directory, since I know there's not going to be there's not going to be really any doc files there, and the performance impact of this shouldn't really matter. And as you can see, it looks like that it might take 12 minutes or the time's actually increasing now to finish this. So I'm going to pause the video now. And again, this could be because I selected the destination on the SD card, but I just wanted to show that how much time this would actually take if you were to use it on the SD card, which is interesting to just show. So you can see why you don't want to do this. But again, normally you would want to select a destination file on the host computer so it's not reading and writing from the same SD card, which is just going to increase the amount of time. But really, this concludes the demonstration. I can show you what it will look like. For instance, we'll have a recup _dir. This will include doc files, if there are any on the SD card. But really, other than that, this demonstration is just a waiting game since I selected the SD card to write on itself. But if there were doc files, you would find it in this directory. But again, we're not going to wait this amount of time, and there were no doc files on the SD card to begin with. But this is just a pure demonstration to show you how easy it is to look through SD cards, how you can find corrupt media, and this should help complete with the activity on the lesson plan. So if you have any other questions other than what I showed you, please ask the instructor in charge of this, and thanks for watching this video.